I'm just gonna say it, letting toxic people into your life is not only dangerous, but it comes with a huge opportunity cost, and from experience, toxic people can quite literally make you ugly. And that's why in this episode, we're gonna discuss the 7 types of toxic people to watch out for vigilantly, the opportunity costs of the people you surround yourself with, and how to practice distance over disrespect, if not entirely cutting such people off for your own sanity and peace. Welcome back to Becoming Discomfortable, a Gen Z podcast dedicated to preparing you to step into your light and become the best version of yourself. I'm your host Lyla, and let's get into it. Let's break down the psychology of these 7 types of toxic people so you know exactly who to avoid. Number 1, the broke one. Not broke in terms of money, but the people who are broke with their love, who constantly feel the need to remind you of every single thing they've done for you, even if it was years ago, even if it was something small and minuscule, and they try to make you feel guilty for it. We're not even talking about something lavish and expensive or something that requires arduous amounts of their labor and time. These people will use the bare minimum to manipulate you and to try to justify getting you to do what they want. These manipulative tactics are used to exert control over you, which often creates a power imbalance. Number 2, malicious, insecure people. While there is nothing wrong with having insecurities, these people harbor malicious intentions and take it a step further by projecting their insecurities onto others. These issues can stem from low self-esteem, insecurities, pain, as the saying goes, hurt people. These people often cannot stand to see others living in their light because they are constantly at war with themselves internally. So they take it out on others. No matter how kind or respectful you are to these people, no matter how much you do for them, they will always find an excuse to not like you and to not respect you. Again, not everyone who's experienced pain is like this. We're talking about a very specific type of person here. These people lift themselves up by putting others down. One of the most common ways they do this is by insulting others through their jokes. And if called out on it, they feign innocence by using the excuse, "It's just a joke," or "You're just too sensitive." An example of these people are the pick-me's of the world, except it's not just limited to romantic relationships. These people won't want to see you doing better than them in school, work, business, health, anything. And I get it. Sometimes when we're coming from a place of lack, it can be difficult to feel happy for others. However, a person with emotional intelligence will reflect on their own behavior and thoughts, and if they realize they're coming from a place of jealousy or envy, even if they don't intend to hurt anyone, they will make sure to distance themselves. As we've discussed in previous episodes, there is a difference between jealousy, which is a completely normal feeling to have from time to time, versus envy. These types of malicious people may go as far as to try to damage your reputation or inflict harm upon you. And this can apply to any type of relationship, a partner, a friend, a family member, even a parent or guardian sometimes, unfortunately. These people may also be incredibly negative and pessimistic to the point where instead of trying to look for the good in things, they actively go out of their way to look for the bad. This is blowing up, and these people are terrible. There's like always drama surrounding them. There's always someone or something to hate on because these people are so deeply unsatisfied with themselves. Okay, I just realized how this might sound. So it is important to remember that the world is not as bleak as it might sound here. There are people out there who take pleasure in your happiness and genuinely want to see you succeed. People who may have yet to come into your life. Number 3, the drama queens. While bad things can happen, people have disagreements and arguments from time to time, these types of people always seem to be in conflict, no matter what time you're around them. There are many reasons for this, but these people can be described as having no life of their own to be investing this much time and energy into creating and inflaming drama. If they try to unnecessarily start arguments or fights with you, it's usually because that's the most exciting part of their day. The sad reality is these drama queens never learn to develop healthy ways to cope with stress, so they begin to engage in such behaviors that cause harm to others. And sometimes, if life doesn't go their way or they're stuck in some unfavorable situation, they feel the need to take this anger out on others, especially if those other people are seemingly having it easier than them in their mind. They thrive on drama because that's all they've likely ever known. This dysfunctionality is completely normal in their world, and they haven't developed the self-awareness to pick up on these negative patterns and do something about it. Number 4, the control freaks. As we discussed in a previous episode, exerting control over and subjugating people, especially women, is a very common theme present all around the world, including in the so-called progressive West. This control can stem from a place of narcissism or a superiority complex, which is why I see these people as trying to play God. They forget where they're coming from. It can start off anywhere with making you do things a certain way to their liking, telling you what to wear or not to wear, making decisions on your behalf without your consent, constantly monitoring your whereabouts so that you are not free to go anywhere or do anything without them, under the excuse of protecting you and worrying for your safety. And these things can all become a lot more sinister over time. I think these are some of the most mild examples I could think of. Gatekeeping finances is a very common tactic used to exert control over women. We often automatically assume this is in the context of romantic relationships with like a financially abusive partner using the finances to control the other partner, but this is also very common in families. My South Asian girlies will probably be able to relate to this really well. For example, parents may prohibit you from getting a job when you legally become of age to work around 15, 16, 17, 18, but will refuse to give you an allowance or enough money to cover your bills and expenses. Even if your expenses are not basic necessities and you just want some fun money to be able to buy yourself something nice, if they are not willing to provide it, but they also refuse to grant you the right to work for it on your own, this is a sign of financial control because it can result in falling behind in life on financial literacy, long-term unemployment, difficulty finding work as an adult, financial dependence on others, which can lower your self-esteem, deteriorate your mental health, and so much more. In a toxic partnership, which is more commonly talked about, this is often seen when children are involved, with one parent, often the woman, being forced to put a halt on their career to become a stay-at-home mom to look after the child and the house due to rising astronomical daycare costs. This leaves her especially vulnerable to financial abuse at the hands of a malicious man, because not only does she have to look out for herself, but her children's security and futures are now also on the line. There are so many stories of men being financially irresponsible, throwing money into dumb investments and losing it instead of investing it into their family and children. Statistics show that men are more likely to lose money in the stock market than women. The craziest part is even though there are fewer women investing in the stock market compared to men, multiple studies have found that that small pool of women who are investing outperform men in investment returns. Women outperformed men by 0.4% in a 2021 analysis of 5 million Fidelity customers over a 10-year period. Another study conducted in the 1990s found an even larger performance difference of nearly 1%, as well as a Wells Fargo study from 2012 to 22, which reported that women achieved higher returns while taking on less risk than men. And if you take a look at this chart here, it shows us the risk-adjusted returns for single men, single women, and joint accounts led by men and joint accounts led by women. And as you can see, in both cases, the accounts led by women
outperform the ones by men.
The only way I can see this working is if the man gives the money to the woman every month and lets her manage it, or at the very least be knowledgeable and fully aware of what's going on at all times with the finances in their house, and having access to it, of course, herself. This is why us ladies need to invest in our financial literacy, because the more knowledgeable we are, the less likely we are to be manipulated. DV is another method these malicious control freaks may use to subjugate a person, or by evoking fear and insecurity to manipulate them into staying in harmful situations. They often take advantage of children's innocence or women's vulnerability, especially when it comes to certain times like our menstrual cycles. 5, the pathological liars. We're not just talking about white lies every once in a blue moon here and there. Oh no. Lying is a second language for these people. Pathological liars have weak egos and poor self-esteem. They harbor feelings of self-hatred, a lack of empathy for others, and the chronic lying shows that they lack the capacity to grow and change. Manipulation, deception, gaslighting, or withholding important information are all key patterns of behaviors exhibited by these individuals. They will pretty much never take responsibility for their actions, no accountability. In their minds, these people are perpetual victims, and they present themselves as such, which is why they often get away with emotionally blackmailing others. Learning about these patterns will help you better identify this behavior in the people around you. These people will typically lie for no clear gain. As I mentioned, it's kind of like within their nature, or for manipulation tactics. As aforementioned, a common theme when using lying to manipulate is to prey upon the vulnerable, such as children or people lacking education, which makes them gullible and more easily susceptible to these people's chronic lies. I have witnessed this with children being manipulated into doing things they don't want to, or taking the blame on for something they didn't do, because they are tricked into believing that adults know better and adults can do no wrong. Think Matilda and the Trunchbull from the movie Matilda. That is such a cute movie. That shaped my entire childhood. You know, I love that she got a happy ending, but so many people don't. And I think that's what we need to really emphasize here. A lot of children or young people don't know better at their young age. And this also, again, applies to finances. An article from the National Institute of Health on toxic relationships describes how individuals with psychopathic traits are able to detect non-verbal and personality cues of vulnerability. And you can pause to read these. I'm just pointing out how many victims reported high rates of financial abuse as well. So such as gatekeeping, lying about finances, for example. And this is why I urge women, even if you don't choose to use your degree or work in the future with a partner, be involved or at least know what's going on in your house at all times. Always have a backup plan, and a backup for your backup plan if you can, and a backup for your backup's backup plan. Yeah, the more prepared you are, like being more prepared doesn't hurt, you know? And it makes it less likely for you to be manipulated. Number 6, one-way narcissists. Pathological lying and narcissism go hand in hand. As the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM-5, defines narcissistic personality disorder as a condition marked by a sense of inflated self-importance, a deep need for excessive attention and admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. They may also employ manipulative tactics such as gaslighting and love bombing. Because narcissists believe that the world revolves around them, they will make even your worst, most difficult moments about themselves. These are the truly selfish ones, the ones who only take and take and take. You could do everything for them, but when it's your turn to need something, they will offer you nothing more than crumbs. And even for that, they will expect you to worship them. It's important to note that while not all toxic individuals will have narcissistic personality disorder, NDP, many can still exhibit narcissistic traits, which can still cause harm to you. These people also love to overstep boundaries even if you communicate yours to them. We talked about the examples of boundaries you can set in the Be Soft and Kind but never take episode. So you really have to advocate for yourself because it's only making their lives easier if you don't. And number 7, we finally have the bystanders. It's interesting how I haven't heard anyone mention bystanders. I would personally categorize these people as just as bad, if not worse. These are the people who see it all happen, are witnesses in crime, and yet they still refuse to step in and help. Sometimes when certain bystanders have been subjugated to the same toxicity, abuse, and or violence that they are witnessing their counterparts experiencing, they become numb to it. They have succumbed to it, and now they kind of wish to see you do the same. These people struggle to process it when someone embodies the fact that it could have been so different for them. A very clear example of this is very bitter women, especially those in relationships that are toxic with NPC, malicious men who make their lives 10 times harder. When these women experience the pain, hardships, and poor treatment constantly, they become numb to it, like it becomes normal in their world. And through their cognitive dissonance, they may end up defending their perpetrators. It's important to note in this example that while these women are hurt too, that doesn't justify letting someone else go through something that they could easily prevent or step in for, okay? So now that you have the tools to identify toxic people outside, to make you become repellent of such people, we need to talk about how letting toxic people into your life can literally make you ugly, according to society's standards. So I was having a conversation with a friend, and at this point my acne was gone. She was telling me that my skin was glowing, and I could see it in myself too. Why? Because I had been spending time away from the toxic people in my life. So much so that I was managing to avoid them for the majority of the time, and I was instead investing all that time and energy into my passions and hobbies. The minute I unfortunately got stuck with these people for a week, can you guess what happened? My acne started to flare up. I felt ugly, something I almost never have to deal with because I have worked on myself a lot and have overcome most of my insecurities. But in the presence of these people, being constantly surrounded with all that negative energy, negative talk about themselves and others, I could feel my light being dimmed. Every time I was around them, I was so exhausted mentally and physically, I could no longer exercise, which caused my health to deteriorate even further. If you pay close attention, when you knowingly or unknowingly let someone toxic into your life, they will make your nervous system flare up. You could have perfect health, but the minute you come into contact with these people, you begin experiencing symptoms of anxiety, depression, negative mindset. Just how a good friend, a good family member, a good partner can bring out a better version of you, toxic people will have the opposite effect on you. They will bring out the worst version of you. I wish somebody had told me this sooner. Like, the reason you're feeling so drained around these people is because they are literally feeding off of your energy, siphoning it, okay? Because they have none of their own. The Wizard Liz explains this concept really well in one of her videos, but I'm speaking from personal experience here. Like I said before, you are the most exciting part of their day because they have nothing else to live for. That's why a lot of narcissists or abusers will look at you with empty, soulless eyes. You glow differently when you cut off the toxic people that have been draining you. Speaking of glowing, if you've made it to this point, leave some sparkles in the comments so I know you're here. So not only are these people capable of causing negative hormonal and physical changes in your body, but they also bring huge opportunity costs with them. An opportunity cost is the cost of giving up one opportunity in order to take another one. When it comes to relationships, toxic people come with many negative opportunity costs. For starters, they block good or better people with positive intentions from entering your life, which reduces your opportunities to build strong, healthy relationships. Trust me when I say that I judge people based on their friends. Even if someone seems nice enough, if they choose to hang out with clearly toxic people, it's a bye-bye from me. With family, it can be a little complicated complicated to get rid of toxicity, but you have the complete freedom to choose your own friends. So when you judge people based on the company they keep, what you're really assessing are the decisions they're actively choosing to make in their life, a valid way to determine whether they're friend material or not. Another opportunity cost is that they emotionally drain you, which causes you to put less energy towards other things and people that make you happy in life, such as your hobbies or positive people. Toxic people also erode your mental health. Studies show that negative relationships characterized by constant negativity, gaslighting, and a lack of validation can detrimentally impact mental and physical health. I also read that toxic relationships can literally make you lose your memory. Like, a lot of people experiencing toxicity and drama constantly and being in constant conflict or experiencing symptoms of depression will have difficulty remembering things. It can cause dissociation. It took me a long time to understand the impact of toxic people on my life and how important it was for me to create distance to maintain my health, well-being, and peace. And I get it. It can be confusing and complicated when you realize that a lot of these toxic traits apply to a certain individual in your life that you've known for so long. It could be a family member or a long-term friend or a partner. It's also not as black and white as the internet makes it seem. You can have people in your life that are toxic, but also have certain positive traits that make it really difficult for you to completely cut them out of your life. It's also not always possible to immediately get out of toxic situations, especially for young people who have little to no financial stability and who still have a lot to learn about relationships and health, which is why I'm a fan of the distance over disrespect mindset. While it may be difficult to cut someone off completely, you can definitely create distance by limiting conversations to when absolutely necessary, avoiding spending time around toxic people, removing yourself from the situation to avoid arguments and clashes. Even when it seems like there isn't something you can do, there usually is. You might not be able to control absolutely everything in a situation, but you can control yourself, right? We'll continue to discuss how to master your emotions and gain better control over your life in future episodes. That is all I have for you today. If you know anyone experiencing toxicity in relationships, please share this episode with them and stay smart, hot, and know your worth.